call me a Crashout for getting a cartilage piercing, just like we talked about. You say it in an endearing way, but perhaps the truth you really wish to say is deeper than your text. Because the very next week, I ask you whether I should finally quit my job. If turning the knob and walking through the door of the more that awaits is the move for me to make, just like we talked about. It doesn't take long for you to show me your doubt. I do it in spite of your take. A few days after our talk, I chalk up the courage to tell you how I feel. I know you're trying to heal and you need your constellations, but my rocket can't reach them. Every time it tries to take off, it crashes into the dirt. Perhaps that's the reason you call me a Crashout for taking the bait when you flirt. I'm starting to notice a trend. You see, I'll bend and batter the matter and space that stands between me and the fate I'd prefer. And my words are proof as much as my actions. But to you, my integrity is merely a massive infraction upon the boundaries you've set. But what about when you said you wanted a cartilage piercing? Or that you were tired of Starbucks? I guess those constellations are far beyond reach of our luck. You keep on working as a barista, and the needle is never known, and we never end up together. A truth that if I'd considered when you called me a Crashout, I'd see that you'd already shown.
So she didn't actually call me a Crashout. She called me an impulsive ass motherfucker. And in her defense, she wasn't entirely wrong about that. Recently, I was watching an interview of Daniel Caesar on The Breakfast Club. If you didn't get a chance to watch my last video, Daniel Caesar is my favorite singer, my favorite artist, has been since I was probably 17 or 18 years old. And recently I was talking with a friend of mine who has a master's in sociology, studies psychology in his free time, and has known me since third grade. I say all of that to say that he knows me very, very well, and he knows people very, very well. And he told me that whether I know it or not, Daniel Caesar is actually a cultural hero of mine. And I didn't really understand what he meant by that when he said it until I watched that Breakfast Club interview. In the interview, he mentions that he would rather die than work a 9-to-5 and follow the traditional path that's been laid out for him by society. And in that moment, I realized, for as much of a fan of his music as I am, and I am a fan of his music, I actually am more drawn to the fact that he speaks a language that I did not know I was fluent in. In other words, we're just on that same wavelength in terms of the approach to life, the general approach to chasing our dreams and embracing sensitivity, things of that nature. And that mentality, the idea that I would rather die than work a 9-to-5, is actually what caused me to drop out of college when I was 19 years old. So if you don't know that story, I'm just going to briefly summarize. Basically, I was in college, didn't know what the fuck I was doing there. I was doing pretty well. I always did well in school, straight A student, but didn't really know why I was there. And one day it kind of hit me that, oh my God, I hate college because I hate the structure. I hate the feeling of giving my power and control to other people, especially other people who may not have my best interest in mind. And if I hate college for those reasons, I'm going to hate having a 9-to-5 as well. So that scared the absolute shit out of me, and I dropped out very shortly after I came to that realization. So I dropped out and I started a YouTube channel about a week later. So mind you, I've already crashed out. Okay, I dropped out, and then on top of that, I went and got a nose piercing the same day because I told myself, I want to make myself unemployable. So I'm going to get a fucking nose piercing. And I mean, I guess it's different in 2026 than it was in 2019. Maybe I should have gotten a face tattoo or something instead, but I digress. About a week after, I start my YouTube channel, and I quickly realize that I don't really have the equipment that I need to make the kind of videos that I want to make. So I need to invest in my channel. The problem is I have $200 to my name, that's not going to get you very far when we talk about equipment. So I figured I need to go get a job. And yes, it's ironic that I dropped out of college to end up working at a job anyways, but I knew that this job was going to be temporary. It was a temporary condition for a permanent outcome, or at least that's what I thought at the time. So I get this job and I work there for maybe 8 or 9 months, something like that, less than a year. And with pretty much every paycheck I get, I'm investing in some kind of equipment. I ended up spending, I think, upwards of $3,000 before I even made a single penny off of YouTube. Before I got monetized, before I hit 1,000 subscribers, I had already put thousands of dollars into my channel. And once I did that, all bets were off. I knew I have to make it now. I'm at work telling people I'm going to make it one day. I'm going to make it on YouTube. I'm not trying to hide my channel. I'm not trying to do it in the background when no one's looking. I'm on my break at work editing my videos. I'm taking naps on my 15-minute break in the morning shifts because I spent the whole entire night editing and got 40 minutes of sleep. That's what type of time I was on. And those people probably thought I was fucking crazy because I was. I was a crash out. Okay, who spends thousands of dollars on a channel that literally has not made them any money at all? And then on top of that, the type of content I was making at the time, I was doing public interviews. I'm asking girls to rate me 1 to 10, just all types of bullshit that I honestly didn't really want to do. But again, once I put that money up, I was like, I have to make it by any means necessary. Now, throughout the course of me working at that job, which the job was H&M, I met this girl, and I'm not going to keep telling the same story over and over and over again. You can click the link in the description if you want to hear more of the specifics about that, or just kind of watch either of my previous videos. But basically, I met this girl who I fell in love with, and one of the reasons why I fell in love with her, in retrospect, was that I felt like she was on that same frequency that I was on. And we'll refer to that as the Daniel Caesar frequency for now. I felt like she was kind of on that Daniel Caesar frequency where she saw what I saw. She also acknowledged that, hey, this path that we're pursuing, these jobs that we're working, are bullshit. It's bullshit. The life that's been laid out for us, sure, it could be a lot worse. We could be in some sort of impoverished, war-torn nation starving, but it could be a fuck ton better as well. It could be a lot better. And this isn't speculation on my behalf. She literally told me, and this was February 2020. I remember this so vividly. She said, I'm going to quit my job in March 2020. Next month, I'm going to quit my job at Starbucks. I was like, okay, I'm going to quit my job too. Now, mind you, these are the discussions that we're having in the car. I've talked in the past about these long 10-hour dates, hangout sessions, whatever you want to call them. This is what we're talking about, amongst other things, when we're hanging out. She also mentioned that she wanted to get her cartilage pierced. I was like, oh, I've been wanting to do that too. Next time, I pull up with the cartilage piercing. And she's like, oh, you impulsive ass motherfucker. But that's just what type of time I was on. For me, when I would have these epiphanies, oh, I want this, I want to do this, I want to become this, I would pursue those things, I would pursue those desires with reckless fucking abandon. And honestly, that's a trait that it took me a long time to develop. But once I developed it, once I rather discovered it within myself, I continued to cultivate it. Even to this very day, hence why I'm filming this video in Malaysia, a country that before coming here, I had never previously visited. Because I'm just a crash out. I don't know. That's just how my mind operates. When I want to go somewhere, I go there. When I want to acquire something or achieve something, I just go after it. And so started with the cartilage piercing. And the reason why in the poem I say the needle is never known is because honestly, I don't know if she ever ended up getting the cartilage piercing. I never really thought to check. And I have long since stopped keeping tabs on her. And quite frankly, I don't really care to find out if she did. But that was a pretty insignificant thing at the time, although it was an indication of the direction we were going in. But more on that here in a second. As far as the job thing, March rolls around. And mind you, by this time, you would think, because I've been working at this job, even though it was a retail job, you'd think I would have some kind of money saved up because I'd been working there for 8 or 9 months. But remember, I'm spending all of my money on equipment. I'm spending thousands of dollars on equipment, and I was just generally really, really bad with money management. Different discussion for a different day, because that right there got me in a lot of trouble. That plus my crash out tendency created a lot of issues for me in my early 20s. If you know, you know. And if you don't, then you'll find out. But basically, I had around $600 to my name at the start of March 2020. In fact, I think I had $621.32 to be exact. I journaled about it. And I remember, of course, I'm talking all that hot shit. Yeah, I'm going to quit my job. I'm done with this, yada, yada, yada. But when that calendar turned and March rolled around, I'm not going to lie, I kind of folded a little bit at first. I was like, damn, I don't know if I should really do this. Now, mind you, the interesting thing is that even if I hadn't quit, lockdown started right after my 2 weeks notice ended. So either way, I was going to stop working at that job one way or another. But I guess it was a test of faith. And at the time, I didn't feel like anyone else was really on that same wavelength that I was on. I didn't feel like there were a lot of people in my life who really understood why I wanted to quit and pursue YouTube full-time, things of that nature, except for her. I felt like she was the lone exception. So I went to her, I hit her up, and mind you, by this time, she's already drifting away. She was kind of in that process of cutting me off, but in a reluctant manner. I'll get to that in a second. But I felt like I could confide in her. And I asked her, hey, can I get some advice from you? She was like, sure, what's up? And I was like, do you think I should quit my job? And I still remember what she told me to this day. She replied saying, I think you should always have a job. I know you hate working, but you're going to hate being broke even more. Ad verbatim, I remember that part of her message. And it fucked me up. Okay, forget about getting rejected. Forget about getting ghosted or friend zoned or any of the other stuff. That was the moment where I realized, fuck, I've lost her and I'm completely on my own. That was one of the loneliest moments of my whole entire life. Genuinely. And I'm not saying that to put that on her, because it was never her responsibility to begin with. But I'm saying that to say that I most certainly, in retrospect, felt betrayed in that moment. Because she's the one who brought the idea of quitting in March up to me in the first place. So to see her flip like that, I was like, damn, that's how you feel? You think I'm gonna go broke? I mean, I was already broke, but she didn't know that. Unless I told her, I don't know. But the point is, I saw that as her not really having faith in me and the vision that I had as far as being a content creator. And again, it just made me feel really alone and it fucked me up at the time. And so I quit my job really out of spite. I guess I was going to do it either way, and I just wanted her confirmation to let me know I was doing the right thing. But she didn't give it to me. And so instead of giving me confirmation, she gave me motivation because, again, I probably put in my 2 weeks notice either the next day or the day after that. Definitely the next shift that I had. And I remember the reason why I was able to regain my courage was because when I went to put in my 2 weeks notice, I don't know if I've ever actually told the story before, but when I went to put in my 2 weeks notice, I put in my notice with the head manager, this guy named Nick. Shout out to Nick. And Nick was kind of strict. He was kind of the manager that when you saw that you were working with him, you're like, oh, fuck. Okay, it's going to be a rough day. I say this to say that I didn't have the most favorable impression of Nick before that day. I went to put in my 2 weeks notice with him, and I was literally, I shit you not, I was shaking. Okay, I was actually shaking, and I don't know if he peeped how scared I was, but I was like, fuck. Now I'm following this dream. I'm broke, and I'm doing it by myself. On top of that, I don't have her support anymore. So I was shaking, and I remember this man, Nick, he looked at me and he was like, Jordan, I'm not going to lie, you're breaking my heart right now. You're breaking my heart because you're one of my better employees. But if you have a dream, don't let this job get in the way of it. You need to pursue that dream. You need to pursue that vision. I'm not going to lie. When you said that you do YouTube, I got curious and I looked your stuff up and I watched your videos, and you're really talented and I think you can make it. Don't let this job prevent you from doing the thing that you actually want to do. And that fucked me up. That really fucked me up to see how that girl, the twin flame girl that I talk about in all these videos, how when push came to shove, she didn't have the faith in me. Or maybe she just didn't have the faith in herself, because to my point in the poem, she did not quit Starbucks at least that month. She eventually quit that job and ended up getting a job as a server at a restaurant that I took her to. Different discussion for a different day. Stay tuned for the revised version of Ego Death, because I'm going to go in depth about these chance encounters and things like that, because that's one of the most devious things that she ever did. But at least she quit Starbucks though. But to see how she didn't have faith in me, but Nick, the guy who, again, I didn't really have the most favorable impression of at that time, did. It's crazy when you're at the precipice of the life that you envision for yourself, you get a chance to see who really believes in you and who doesn't. Anyways, I quit that job, and a few months later I got monetized, and I ended up doing really well with YouTube. To make a long story short, I ended up doing really well, had some ups and downs, ended up living in a car at one point, again, primarily because I just had shitty money management skills. But the point is, it worked. Me crashing out worked. And pretty much every time I have crashed out in my life, it has worked to my benefit, except when it came to my situation with that girl. Now, in a recent video, I talked about how I believe that whole situation was one big misunderstanding in terms of our views on what platonic intimacy looked like. I theorized in retrospect that she didn't think she was leading me on. I did, and that was because we had different viewpoints of the actions that she was taking. She felt like what she was doing was normal. I didn't. I felt like she was inviting me to pursue her romantically, and she wasn't. And because we didn't have a conversation about that, I ended up losing her over basically nothing. But I'm not sure how true that actually is, because that whole theory is founded on the belief that she didn't like me, that she wasn't romantically into me. And for a while, that conclusion brought me a lot of peace. Convincing myself that she just didn't fuck with me. Sure, it hurts to be rejected, but I'm no stranger to rejection. Okay, I didn't get into my first relationship until I was 20. I'm no stranger to rejection whatsoever. I can deal with that. What I couldn't deal with was the idea that she did like me and didn't want to be with me. That was something that I couldn't wrap my head around. And look, you could say I'm delusional, but I think she did like me, honestly. And she did a lot of things to substantiate that theory that she liked me. One example, this is just one example of the many things that she did. This would have been around September 2020. I reached out to her. This is after months of no contact. I reached out to her. basically apologizing for being toxic, because truthfully, I was toxic. I was the worst kind of toxic too. I was the non-self-aware toxic. I didn't know I was being toxic, so I was especially dangerous, especially for someone like her who is in a vulnerable position, an emotionally compromised position. And I apologized to her on Instagram. She reaches out maybe a day later, big ass paragraph, won't get into detail, but basically, long story short, we officially parted ways on amicable terms. So we weren't cool enough to try to get back into each other's lives or anything, but it was a situation where if we saw each other on the street, sure, it might be awkward, but there'd be no animosity. About a week later, I was trying to look something up on my computer. I don't remember what the fuck it was, but you know how sometimes your computer delays for a second, your search bar specifically delays for a second, and just when you hit enter, some new shit pops up in the search bar and it takes you to that website instead. You know how that happens sometimes? Well, basically, this time it took me to a playlist that she had made for us before our first date back in February of 2020. Now, mind you, by this point, I had deleted the playlist. In fact, I think I had even switched from Apple Music to Spotify because I was like, I don't even want to use the same app that I used to listen to this fucking playlist. I don't want any parts of this. I don't want any residue. I've deleted all the videos that we took together. I've deleted our text messages. I deleted the Instagram chat from when I apologized and she responded from the week prior. I've gotten rid of any trace, any evidence that we were ever in each other's lives. But apparently, I hadn't checked my search history well enough because it took me to the playlist. And I remember my first thought was, oh shit, I need to X this out. But then I was like, damn, she never deleted this playlist? That's kind of strange. And mind you, I know this is a playlist that she made for us because it has our favorite songs in there. Unless she just has a thing for guys who are into Daniel Caesar. I mean, fuck. It was our playlist. Because I think, if I recall correctly, I even contributed. I told her some songs to add to it. And I remember the name of the playlist. I remember what the picture was. All of that. All that shit is etched into my memory. And I remember thinking, damn, that's kind of weird that she didn't delete it. But fuck it. This is beyond me now. Because at this point, I'm talking to somebody else. So I'm like, this is beyond me. Let me just get this shit out of my search history so this never happens again. And just when I go to do that, I see it. I see that, damn, she added new songs to the playlist recently, this past week. So I'm like, huh. Now, that moment right there, that moment where I sat there scratching my chin out of curiosity, that was a very pivotal moment in my life, looking back on it. Because if I had not followed my curiosity, if I had just deleted that shit out of my search history and made the playlist wholly inaccessible to myself, none of this would exist. This whole timeline that you see, Soul Shock, Ego Death, these poetry books, the fucking videos, none of this exists because all of that is founded on the base theory that she liked me but didn't want to be with me. It's me trying to process and comprehend how that's fucking possible. Because again, if she just didn't like me, there's nothing to write about. There's nothing to talk about. She just didn't like me. Oh, it hurts. Fuck. Okay, give me about a week and I'm good. I know this because there were other girls who didn't like me. And they made that very, very clear to me. Cool. Instead of doing the right thing and getting that shit out of my search history, I let my curiosity get the better of me and I scrolled my ass down that playlist and I found a plethora of new songs that I did not recognize with the exception of one. It was a song called Remember Me by Umi. Now, this struck me as kind of odd because it was a song that told of letting go with an undertone of longing. In fact, I would often listen to that song while writing poems about the girl. So that kind of caught my attention, and that raised a few red flags. So I started looking into some of the other songs that she had put in the playlist as well. Now, there are 5 songs, including Remember Me, that I vividly remember being in that playlist. You can look up the lyrics to these songs in another tab or something if you want. Or I can save you the time by sharing this one lyric that encapsulates the essence of the songs that I analyzed in that playlist. The songs that she had added in the week after I had sent her that message on Instagram, after we'd had that little exchange. I believe this lyric is from Hot Cheetos, but I could be wrong. Girlfriend or girl that's a friend, it's easy just to pretend that we don't have something real. Now look, I could be cherry picking, but I found that to be extremely fucking suspect at the time. And it was this weird combination of just wondering what the fuck this is all about, but also this really strong sense of validation. For the first time in months, I felt validated. Because I was like, man, all the gut feelings that I had, all the little intuitive nudges and signs that she would throw my way, it wasn't just in my mind. This girl actually fucked with me. Or it's possible that she put these songs in there because she's grieving over someone else. But if that's the case, why would she put it in our playlist? Furthermore, again, why didn't she delete our playlist or rename it or remove the songs that I suggested she put in there? These are the questions that are going through my head at that time. And this, again, is what opened that Pandora's box to this whole timeline of just me trying to process what the fuck that was and how it was possible that this girl liked me enough to add these grieving songs and shit that indicate interest into our playlist and still not want to communicate with me or be with me. While I do understand that sometimes we go through traumatic events and we may not have the emotional bandwidth to allocate to a romantic relationship, I also think that when you're with the right person, there's no such thing as the wrong time, because you should both be able to coalesce the bandwidth that both of you have to attack those problems together. That's what I fundamentally believe. This idea that you have to be fully healed to get into a relationship, I think, is a very destructive belief to carry with you. And it's why so many people struggle to find and keep love, is they think they're unworthy because they have traumas. But just like I was saying in the last video, it's not about getting rid of your traumas or clearing your traumas. And by the way, I'm not saying any of this to invalidate where she was at the time. If she wasn't ready based on her standards, then she simply wasn't ready. And it's not my place to impose my own standards on her. But I'm more so saying all of this to say that her and I, looking back on it, were never going to work because we had fundamentally different approaches to life.
The piercing never fully healed. It bothered me for years, till the day I took the diamond from my damaged ear. Cartilage is fiercer than a forest fire flame. The piercing closed eventually, but still it's not the same. Look a little closer and you'll likely spot a lump. Fire burning in it, leaving nothing but a stump. The piercing never fully healed, but it was worth the scar. Forest turned to fuel that took my rocket to the stars.